Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so to solve this, you could start by trying to get y by itself and moving the -2/7 to the other side. Why don't we go ahead and get rid of these fractions and multiply by the least common denominator between 7 and 2. So the least common denominator of 7 and 2 would be 7 times 2, 14. So if I multiply every single thing by 14, that's going to get rid of the fractions. So first, 14, so I'm just going to write out what's happening. We have 14 times -2/7 plus 14 times y equals 14 times -1/2. Okay, so 14/7 reduces to 2/1. And then 14/2 reduces to 7/1. So let's see what we have now. Now we have 2 times -2, which is -4, over 1, and that's just -4, plus 14 times y is 14y, equals 7 times just -1, so that's -7. Okay, now, again, we're trying to solve for y. We want to get y by itself. So let's add 4 to both sides of the equal sign. So on the left, -4 plus 4 cancels out. I'm going to bring down my 14y equals -7 plus 4, different signs, so we subtract and take the sign of the larger number, so it'll be -3. And then finally, to get y by itself, I'm going to divide by 14. So 14/14 cancels out, and then I'm going to have y equals -3/14. So this is my final answer here, and the way that the my math lab asks for the answer, they have you type it into a solution set. Just basically type this number in the box. Okay? So any questions about this one? Okay, we'll keep going. And again, I'm going to post this link, and I'm going to send it to Professor Poinciano as well. Okay, so let's look at another problem. Okay, so it says, I'm going to write it out, if a number is multiplied by 4, the result is 18. Find the number. Okay, so we're going to first write the equation using this information. They tell us to let x represent the number in the equation, and then solve the equation and find what the number is. Find x. So it says if a number, so they tell you to let x represent the number described in the exercise. So x is going to be the variable we use to represent a number. So it says if x is multiplied by 4. So if x is multiplied by 4, why don't we use parentheses instead, since we are already using an x. So if a number, we're calling it x, is multiplied by 4, that's x times 4. The result is in math is equals 18. So we don't write x times 4 in this way. We want to write that as 4x equals 18. So that's our equation. Okay? Then it says to actually find the number, so find x. So if we're solving for x, we want to get it by itself, so we're going to divide by 4 to cancel out the 4 here, but we have to divide by 4 on the right. So on the left we have x equals, and on the right we have 18 over 4. And it asks us to simplify your answer. Type it as an integer or an improper fraction. So we want to just make sure that 18 over 4 is simplified all the way. And 18 over 4 is not simplified, so we could change 18 to be 9 times 2, and 4 is 2 times 2. So you see here the 2's cancel, and so 18 over 4 is equivalent to, whoa, this should be a 2. Sorry about that. Okay, so 18 over 4 reduces to 9 over 2. So 9 over 2 is the number, and the equation was 4x equals 18. Okay? Let's look at another. So this is, I should be numbering my questions. That was number 1. Number 2, this is number 3. Just says to graph the solutions of x is less than 3. Okay, so let's talk about what this would look like on a number line. So I'm going to draw a number line here. And it says x is less than, that's what this symbol means. X is less than 3. So let's just put 3 on the number line. So remember that values less than are to the left and values more than are to the right. So let me just kind of fill in some more numbers here, like so. Okay, so this says that x is less than 3. So all of our values less than 3 are to the right. I'm sorry, to the left of 3. Now, we will use an open circle because we're not including 3, or you could also use a parentheses. You could say parentheses and then shade all the way to the left. So your graph would look something like this. So whether that's an open circle or parentheses, it would look like this. Everything shaded to the left of 3 with a parentheses or open circle at 3. Because remember, less than or greater than, you would use open circles and parentheses. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, use closed circles and brackets. Okay? Okay, so number 4 will look something like this. Solve the following formula for the specified variable. So the formula is m times w plus m times n equals r. And we want to solve for m. Okay. So, there we go. All right, so we want to solve for m. Let's first look at where m is. We've got m in this term and in the second term on the left side of the equation. So I want to get m by itself. So the way I'm going to get closer to that, I can factor out m. If I factor out an m, what's left over? What I'm doing, I'm basically kind of dividing m out of each term. So m times w over m. The m's cancel, and we'll just have w. M times n over m. Again, the m's cancel, and I just have n. So what I'm doing here is, and I have still the r on the right. So what I just did, I factored out m. And what that was like doing reverse distributive property. Reverse distribute. Because if you were to go back, if you said m times w, what would you get? mw. Whoops. Sorry, guys. Okay. And if you did m times n, what would you get? mn. So factoring out m was like doing reverse distributive property. So now I'm trying to get m by itself, but m is being multiplied by w plus n. So if I divide by w plus n, that will cancel it out. But I can't divide by w plus n on the left and not do it on the right as well. So on the left, I just have m. This canceled, so I have m equals r over w plus n. Or if you wrote it as r over n plus w, they're both the same thing. Okay? But that's your answer. That was how we solve this formula for the variable m. Okay, let's look at another one. I'm going to get more space here. Okay, 3 times 5x plus 1 equals 17x minus 1. And it says solve the equation. So to start solving this equation, I'm going to start by distributing this 3 inside of the parentheses beside it. So I'm going to have 3 times 5x is 15x. 3 times 1 is 3. And then I'm going to bring down the right side of the equation. So now I'm trying to solve for x, so I want to get all of my x's on one side of the equation and all of my constants to the other side of the equation. And I like to have positive coefficients. Remember, a coefficient is the number in front of the variable. I like to use positive ones if I can. So I'm actually going to move the 15x. I will be moving the x's to the right, which is kind of different looking, but if I do that, I will keep a positive coefficient. So I'm going to subtract 15x. So if I subtract 15x on the left, I must do it on the right, and I can subtract it from a like term of 17x. So now 15x minus 15x is nothing at all. I'm going to bring down that 3 equals 17x minus 15x is 2x, and then bring down minus 1. Now since I decided to move my variables to the right, I'm going to move the constants to the left, so that means I need to add 1 because I want my x's by itself. So on the left, 3 plus 1 is 4 equals 2x, and then minus 1 plus 1 cancels out to nothing. And then finally, the the goal was to solve the equation, so I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides of the equal sign. 2x divided by 2, the 2's cancel out, and I have x equals 4 divided by 2, and we know that 4 divided by 2 is 2, so therefore x equals 2. And what if you want to check your answer? You would do this. You would plug in your solution back into your equation everywhere you see x. So if we have 3 times 5x, we're going to put 3 times 5 times 2 plus 1 equals 17 times x, but for x we're going to put 2 minus 1. So now we have 3 times 10, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 equals 17 times 2 is 34 minus 1. 10 plus 1 is 11. So 3 times 11 equals 34 minus 1. 3 times 11 is 33, equals 34 minus 1 is 33. This is a true statement, so I have verified that 2 is my solution. Any questions? Okay, let's look at another problem. So number 6 could say, determine whether each ordered pair is a solution of y equals negative 8x. So we've got negative 4, 32. Is this a solution? So in order to find that out, we take our x and y coordinate in the ordered pair, plug it into the equation. If you get a true statement, that point is a solution. If you do not get a true statement, it is not a solution. So we need to plug in 32 in for y and negative 4 in for x. So you would say 32 equals negative 8 times negative 4. And see if you get a true statement. So negative 8 times negative 4 is in fact 32. So yes, negative 4 and 32 is a solution. So what about the origin 0, 0? Is this a solution? And remember, a point is a solution of an equation, of a linear equation, if the point is actually on the line. So let's check this one. We're going to put 0 in for y and 0 in for x. So we'll have 0 equals negative 8 times 0. So negative 8 times 0 is 0. So yes, 0, 0 is a solution as well. So you have to plug in the point into the equation. If you get a true statement, it's a solution. If the statement were false, it is not a solution. Okay. The next problem is talking about making a table of values. So it says find 5 solutions of the equation. So the equation is y equals 4x minus 2, and they give you x values. So the x values given are negative 1, 0, and 1. And we're plugging those values into 4x minus 2, and we're getting a corresponding y. I'm going to make an extra column, and then we're going to write our ordered pairs. Okay, so this is your input. The x values are your input. The Y values are your output. Okay? All right, so let's go forward. So we're plugging in the input in for X. So we have 4 times -1 minus 2. So 4 times -1 is -4 minus 2 equals -6. So the ordered pair would be -1, -6. Let's plug in 0. 4 times 0 minus 2. 4 times 0 is 0. Minus 2 is -2. So that ordered pair would be 0, -2. And then now we'll plug in 1 in for X. 4 times 1 minus 2. 4 times 1 is 4. Bring down -2. And 4 minus 2 is 2. So the ordered pair would be 1, 2. So this problem will basically just ask you to make a table of values, and they'll likely give you some X values. So this was given in the problem, and you are filling out the rest. Okay, so the next one may have a graph, and you are being asked to find information from the graph. So I'm going to kind of rough sketch it. Do I have a picture? Let's see. I do not. I was trying to see if I had a grid. That's okay. All right. Oh, I need my pens. Let's see. Okay. So what is going on? That's so weird. Okay. So I'm going to kind of sketch this graph. Super rough sketch. Okay. All right, so it says to use the graph to identify the X-intercept or state that there is no X-intercept, and then the Y-intercept or say there's no Y-intercept. So an X-intercept or a Y-intercept is a point on the line that crosses that particular axis. So the X-intercept would be a point that crosses the X-axis. And the Y-intercept would be a point on the line that crosses the Y-axis. So let's look at the X-intercept. So the blue line is crossing the X-axis at a particular point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the X-intercept, it's asking you for this to just type an integer, would be 4. If we want to write it as an ordered pair, that would be 4, 0. The Y-intercept is where that blue line crosses the Y-axis, which would be here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the Y-intercept is 8. And if it asked you to write it as an ordered pair, that would be 0, 8. Okay. And that's really it. So the only way that it wouldn't have an intercept would be, let's say it looked like this. and it asks you for the x-intercept, or say there's no x-intercept, and the y-intercept, or say there's no y-intercept. So as far as the x-intercept, is this blue line going to ever cross, or does it cross the x-axis? It does not cross the x-axis. So this would have no, let me not use blue. This would have no x-intercept because it never crosses the x-axis. But the y-intercept for this would be at 3. And as a point, it would be 0, 3. Okay? Okie doke. All right. So I'm just going to try to get through 20 problems because your test will have 20 problems. Whoops. Sorry about that. Okay. In my office. Okay, let's look at number 9. So find the x and y intercept of the graph of the equation. So we have 4x plus 3y equals 24. So we want to find the x and y intercepts. So remember, to get the x-intercept, you want to set y equal to 0, then solve for x. So for this one, 4x plus 3y, but we're going to make y equals 0, equals 24, and then solve for x. So 3 times 0 is 0. We have 4x plus 0 equals 24. 4x plus 0 is 4x equals 24. Divide by 4. X equals 24 divided by 4, which is 6. So that's your x-intercept. X equals 6.
Susanna.
Hello. Now, you are in my 1033, or are you in my developmental math combined? Because if you're in 1033, we're going to do that class at 3 o'clock because I made a snafu on the scheduling.
I'm in the combined.
Perfect. You're in the right place. Welcome. Okay.
Thank
All right. So your x-intercept is going to be 6, and if you want to write it as an ordered pair, it would be 6, 0. But I don't think the test asks for it as an ordered pair, but it is good to know. Now to get the y-intercept, it's going to be very similar, but instead of solving for x by making y 0, you're going to solve for y by making x 0. So we'll use green. So set x equal to 0, then solve for y. Hope you guys can read my chicken scratch. So we have 4 times x, but we're going to make x equals 0, plus 3y equals 24. So 4 times 0 is 0, plus 3y equals 24. 0 plus 3y is 3y equals 24. And then we're going to divide both sides by 3 because we're trying to solve for y. So y equals 24 divided by 3, which is 8. That's your y-intercept. And then if we want to write it as an ordered pair, remember we made x 0, so it would be 0, 8. So in conclusion, to get the intercept, you want to make the other variable 0 and solve for that particular intercept that you're looking for. So to find the x-intercept, you want to make y 0 and solve for x. To get the y-intercept, you want to make x 0 and solve for y. Okay. All right. Let's keep the party going. Where are my questions? Okay. All right, so the next question, let's see. The next question just says, what is the equation of the lines shown on the left? So, write the equation of the line. So first off, it's crossing which axis? It's crossing, very good, the y-axis. So that means it's going to be y equals whatever value it's crossing through. So it's crossing through 8, so it's y equals 8. That is the equation of the line. If it were a vertical line crossing through the x-axis, it would be x equals whatever point it's crossing through. So the main thing is don't confuse. So horizontal lines or y equals a number. Vertical lines, they're supposed to be vertical, looks slanted. Straight up and down lines are always x equals some number. All right. Okay. So now we're going to get into slope. So let's see, you could be given 2 points that the line passes through. Let's say a line passes through -2 and 4, and then -2 and 1. And it wants you to find the slope of the line passing through these 2 points. So we have a neat little formula we can use to find the slope of a line given 2 points. And that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the x1 and y2 and x1, that just tells you that you're talking about 1 point and then another point. So if you want, you can label your points. If we want to call this first point, point number 1, we can make this x1 and y1. And then we can make this point x2 and y2 if you want. So all you have to do is plug in your values. So it's y2, which we said is 1, minus y1, which we said is 4, over y2, x2, which we said is -2, minus x1, which is also -2. So be very careful with these minus and negatives. Notice that the black subtraction, that's always there. Okay? So 1 minus 4 is going to be -3 divided by -2 minus -2. So minus a negative changes that to a positive. So -2 plus 2 is 0. So we have a number divided by 0. This is not 0. This is undefined. Okay? This is not 0. I want to make sure that's clear. So any number divided by 0 is always undefined. You cannot divide a number by 0. But 0 divided by a number equals 0. But the answer here, the slope, is undefined. And it will have that option for you to choose. You won't have to like type undefined. Okay. Let's look at another one. It says find the slope of the line shown on the graph. So I'm going to try to draw this as best as I can. It's really hard to draw these well without grid paper. Okay, so you could do this two different ways. If it's giving you a graph, you could count. So remember, slope is equal to rise over run. So if you wanted to, you could actually count from one point to the other how much you would move up or down divided by how much you would move left or right to get from one point to the other. Or if you want to actually find what these points are, which you can very clearly determine what point this is and what point this is, and then use the slope formula that we just talked about. I'm going to count just so you can see how that looks. So it doesn't matter where you start from or where you end, but just start at a point and end at a point that's clearly on the line. So let's say if we start here, to go from here to there. Okay, let me do all that. Sorry about that, guys. Where are we? Okay. So to go from here to here, we could count, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Imagine that's 1, 2, 3, 4, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 up. And then, so that'll be positive 5 because it's 5 going up divided by 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to the right, so that's a positive 4. So 5 over 4 is your slope. What if we went the other way? Would I still get the same answer? Sure. If I went from this point up here and go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I go down 5, that's going to be negative 5 divided by, and if I go to the left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that would be negative 4. Well, a negative divided by negative is still a positive number. So it's still 5 over 4. But you can find the slope by just counting your rise over run if you're given the graph. Or like I said, you could say, okay, this point here is 1, 4, and this point is negative 3, negative 1, and you could use the slope formula and get the slope as well. You could say 4 minus negative 1 over 1 minus negative 3. 4 minus negative 1 is 5. 1 minus negative 3 is 4. And what do you know? The same thing. So you could do either method, but you can use the method that makes sense based on the information that's given to you. Okay. Another question could have you looking at Slope-Intercept Form. So it says find the slope and the Y-intercept of the line given the equation. Let's say we have y equals 8x plus 4. So remember Slope-Intercept Form. Y equals mx plus b. So m is the letter we use for the slope, and b is the y-intercept. All right? This is Slope-Intercept Form. Super duper helpful. So if your equation is in that form, you can literally just look at it and determine the slope and the y-intercept. The slope is the coefficient in front of x, and the y-intercept is that constant at the end. So if you look here, the m is 8 and the b is positive 4. So that means that the slope of this given equation equals 8, and the y-intercept of this given equation equals 4. And if it asks for you to write it as an ordered pair, it's a y-intercept, so the x is 0, so it'll be 0, 4. But like I said, I don't think that it's asking you to write it as an ordered pair, as a point, but I still want to show you that's what it would be. Okay. Let's look at another. So we're going to subtract some polynomials. 9y to the third plus 3y squared minus y minus 1, subtract y squared minus 8y plus 12. So when you're subtracting a polynomial, you must first distribute the negative in the second polynomial. So basically change all the signs in the second polynomial. So negative times y squared is negative y squared. Negative times negative 8y is positive 8y. And negative times positive 12 is negative 12. Then you can just drop the parentheses in the first polynomial. So 9y cubed plus 3y squared minus y minus 1, and then minus y squared plus 8y minus 12. If you don't distribute this negative, this red negative, then you're only subtracting the first term. You have to change all of the signs in the parentheses in the second term. Whatever thing you're subtracting away, you have to change all those signs. And so now you can just write it in standard form. So you want to have your exponents descending order, in descending order, which means big to small, greatest to least. So that means let's write the 9y to the third first. And there's no other cubes to combine it with, so we have 9y cubed. Now, we have 3y squared, 3y squared minus y squared. Those are like terms. So 3y squared minus y squared is positive 2y squared. Now we have negative y plus 8y. That's like saying negative 1y plus 8y. So negative 1 plus 8. Those are different signs. We take the sign of the larger number, which is a positive, and subtract 8 from 1. So positive 7y. And then now we have minus 1, minus 12. Same sign, so we keep the sign, and then we add. So 1 plus 12 is 13. So basically we have 9y cubed plus 2y squared plus 7y minus 13. And that's your final answer. Okay? Okay. Next problem asks us to find the product. So we've got 3x minus 4 times x plus 8. So we're going to distribute 3x minus 4 with the next binomial. And then the quick way that we remember how to do this is FOIL. So F stands for first. So 3x times x is 3x squared. O stands for outer. So the outer terms would be 3x times 8, which is positive 24x. I stands for inner. Add an extra I in there. Let me fix that. So negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And the L stands for last. Negative 4 times positive 8 is negative 32. After you FOIL, you just combine like terms. So we have 3x squared, 24x minus 4x is 20x, and then minus 32. And that's my final answer here. Okay? Next question says, multiply 4x plus 6 squared. For this problem, do not distribute that exponent of 2. You want to write it twice. 4x plus 6 squared is saying that 4x plus 6 is being multiplied together 2 times. Then from there, you want to follow FOIL. So first, 4x times 4x is 16x squared. Outer, 4x times 6 is 24x. Inner, 6 times 4x is 24x. And last, 6 times 6 is 36. So we have 16x squared plus 24x plus 24x is 48x. Then bring down your plus 36. And so this is your final answer here. But do not do this. 4x plus 6 squared, 4x squared plus 6 squared. No, don't do that, okay? That's wrong. Because if you do that, you're not going to have that middle term. You're going to totally ignore that middle term. This is not correct. This is bad. Don't do that. Sorry. It's a common mistake, but I just want to make it very clear that we don't want to do that. Okay. So let's see what's next. Okay, divide using the quotient rule. Okay, so x to the 170 times y to the 190 over x to the 85th times y to the 95th. It looks scary, but it's not that bad. Okay, so we're dividing exponents. Let's focus on the x terms. So we're dividing exponents with the same base. So you want to subtract the exponents. So that's x to the 170 minus 85. And then we have our y terms. So we have y raised to the 190 minus 95. So 170 minus 85. So 170 minus 85. We want to borrow. 10 minus 5 is 5, and we need to borrow again. 16 minus 8 is 8. So we have x to the 85th, and then 190 minus 95. Borrow from the 9, and we have 10 minus 5 is 5. Borrow from the 1, and we have 18 minus 9 is 9. So x to the 85th times y to the 95th. And that's your final answer. So we were dividing expressions with exponents that have the same base. You subtract the exponents. Okay, let's look at another exponent problem. So we have 4x to the negative 8 times 4x to the 5th. Okay. Okay, so this is multiplication. So we can rearrange all of these numbers and still have the same thing. So I'm going to take the 4 and write those together. 4 times 4. Then I have x to the negative 8 times x to the 5th. Okay. So now 4 times 4 is 16. Then now we are multiplying two expressions with the same base, so we can add the exponents. X to the negative 8 plus 5. So negative 8 plus 5, we have different signs, so we subtract and keep the sign a larger number. So that's 16x to the negative 3rd. But we never want a negative exponent in our final answer. So we need to move this so that the exponent is positive. The 16 is fine. Leave the 16 alone. And if we move x to the negative 3rd to make it positive, that's going to be x to the positive 3rd on the bottom. And so this is the final answer here. You could have done it a few different ways. You could have at this point in the beginning, you could have said 4 times 4 is 16. And then you could have automatically moved the x to the negative 8 to the bottom to make it positive. And then you have x to the 5th at the top. And then here you have x to the 5th over x to the 8th. Since the exponent is bigger at the bottom, you could put the difference at the bottom. Let's see. X to the 3rd. So you have 16 over x to the 3rd. Is our final answer. Just 1 second. Okay. All right, so next we have some scientific notation. We're going to write the number in decimal notation. Let me get another page in here. Oh, no, I don't want a brand new one. Where'd it go? Okay, I think it went to the top. Where's that blank page? Oh, I'll just do it here. Okay, so we have 7.3 times 10 to the negative 3rd. And we want to write that in decimal notation. So 7.3 times 10 to the negative 3rd. If your exponent is negative, we want to make this 7.3 even smaller. So to make it even smaller, we're going to move the decimal place to the left. And you're going to move it 3 to the left. So 1, 2, 3. It's 0.0073. So this would be your answer, 0.0073. If your exponent was positive, that means we would be multiplying the decimal number by a really big value. So we'd move the decimal to the right. Okay. So then the last problem let's see, write the number in scientific notation. So we have 569,000. So right now that's a whole number. The decimal is at the end of the problem. And to write it in scientific notation, we need to put the decimal in a place that would make the resulting number be between 1 and 10. So we need to move the decimal right here. So we want 5.69. How many times do we move it to get there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay? So 569,000, that's a really big number. So that decimal, that exponent is a positive 5. Okay? So 5.69 times 10 to the 5th, that would be the answer, the number in scientific notation.